Hey everyone, Luke here, and yeah, this is very different. Doing a review at midnight on Wednesday, midnight, mid-morning, whatever you want to call it, on Wednesday the 9th of December. So yeah, this is certainly something very different. Don't normally do these late. I normally wait until the afternoon to shoot these, but I figured, hey, since everyone's in bed now, I figured what would be a perfect way to perfect time to do this review where I'm absolutely quiet and I've got nothing else to do. I've got nothing going on tomorrow, so I figured I'd get this out of the way, but also got something else to show you guys. Dun. Dun, 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 dun. Got volume 14 of Dr. Stone. Probably one of my favourite covers of it, but also the back is pretty awesome as well. We've got Ibarra there with the with the Medusa as well, and funny enough, perfect that I got this in perfect time for this review, considering what happens in this review, considering this thing comes into play a little bit in this chapter, which I'm really excited about. But for now, let's just dive right into it. Oh, and something else I thought I should bring up is something that I've forgotten to mention in the last review, but Polyjams was kind of to remind me on the comments as well. So thank you very much, man. You are awesome. He's pretty much the only Dr. Stone guy that actually responds to my comments, and I've interacted with him on Kontrolled Khaos Discord. Go and subscribe to them, Kontrolled Khaos. I'll leave a link in the description below, and also a link to the Discord as well. But anyway, he said that I forgot to mention Sinu's compliment to Senku, which was probably foreshadowing that was going to send a message to Stanley's team, because Senku at one point said, "A man who compliments another to his face is scheming," and since Sinu did that in the span of 2 chapters, he did that in one chapter and in another one back to back. That's obviously a plan, like, yeah, he's kind of scheming there. Just wanted to get that completely out of the way, but also as well, we finally got an announcement for season 2, Stone Wars, which I'm hoping that they do Treasure Island as well, because that pretty much has a fight as well, so that could be classed as part of Stone War as well, considering we have a war between the Petrification Kingdom and the Kingdom of Science in that. So if they want to include that, that'll be fine, because we also get the Treasure Island arc, and we get the introduction to Ryusui, Mozu, Ibarra, Francois, all pretty cool characters in that. All right, and also if my assumption goes correctly, they'll get onto the finale of season 2. Might be "We are going to the moon." That would probably be the massive cliffhanger at the end, which would be like, holy shit, we've got to watch season 3 to find out how the fuck they're actually going to do that. But yeah, that's the few things I wanted to bring up, and also it also comes out on January 14th, 10 days after Senku's birthday, which he's right there. Now, hopefully, fingers crossed, I will be able to get the review after Christmas out on January 4th, because either way, I'll probably film the opening that I do here on that day, because obviously it is Senku's birthday, so we've got to talk about him on his birthday as well, which is January 4th. Same week as my birthday, because my birthday is January 7th, so we're only 3 days apart from each other. And also, fun fact, it's the birthday of Olivia Tennant, who played Dr. K in Power Rangers, for all Power Rangers RPM fans out there. So yeah, Dr. K, the mentor of the RPM Rangers, says the same birthday as Senku, another genius in of themselves. So great birthday, and also great week, because obviously it's my birthday week on that week as well. So yeah, anyway, let's just dive right into the review. Alright, so this will be chapter 177, titled Medusa Mechanism, and this was something I was not expecting here, because normally when you go into different arcs, you kind of this is something that One Piece does a lot as well, and obviously Red and Furman can obviously quote me on this, is that once the Straw Hats leave an island, those people that are on that island or leave that arc, they tend to fall by the wayside and not really get referenced all that much later on in the story, unless they're really, really, really important people. And a lot of series does that. I'm not just, but I'm just picking out One Piece because One Piece and Doctor Stone kind of have a similar structure going on here. But one thing I've got to give Doctor Stone credit on is that it's knowing when to cut back to the characters that we actually do care about. And this is one of those chapters that it comes at a point when you're like, when you've just had a big action scene with Stanley, so obviously you got to take a little bit of a breather, which is something I'm going to get in. Actually, I'll get into it now, because Sean, Weird Bros, said this on the Discord. If I can actually bring it up here, blah, blah, blah. If I can actually, come on, Discord. Here we go. Dr. Stone. Oh, is it in there? Is it? Here we go. Yeah, it was in the Chainsaw Man. It was in the Chainsaw Man video. There's this guy on Twitch which he actually put out because he was complaining about how Marky Mark and Chainsaw Man got quote unquote easily defeated, even though it took like 15 chapters to actually bring her down. I'm not going into Chainsaw Man here, but also final chapter this week. Get yourselves prepared because we have no idea how that series is going to end. But anyway, he said that I would have fun ripping into him since he's not been a fan of the recent chapters of Doctor Stone because it's rushing things and it's slowed down on meaningless stuff, which I cannot agree on that, because after that big action scene in the last chapter, you need a calming, soothing moment for them to like, okay, we've got rid of Stanley for the moment, now we can just relax and focus on what needs to be getting focused on, and that's finding out not just about what caused the original petrification, but also finding out a lot more about how the Medusa actually works, which is what this chapter is all focused on. But anyway, enough tangents. The chapter picks up with the plane that was destroyed at the end of the last chapter, because if you remember, Senku sabotaged the plane with Ryusui and he put sugar into the gas tank. As we get them going, dang, look at this crap, the plane's engine's all crap, the plane's engine's all black, as we cut over to Dr. Brody, who's actually listening in on this conversation, be going, that burn sugar, they must have tossed a bunch in there, but Stanley's not too disarmed by this, because they can obviously fix up the plane quickly and chase down the Junior Science Brigade, and with Brody giving us tips over the radio, they can handle the repairs themselves. As Maya goes, what do you know, remote work even here in the Stone World. That, in case you don't get that reference, that is a reference to what's been going on in the world right now, that we're all having to do remote work from home, basically. You know the thing that I'm talking about. But anyway, I kind of like this, because it shows like it shows like even though Brody is called a ceasefire, it doesn't necessarily mean he's kind of 100% on the Kingdom of Science side, and it's kind of like. And even though he's a guy you can reason with, he's obviously not going to fully betray the people that have worked with him for years at this point to get the city running. So obviously he's going to give tips to them, and he's being pretty neutral in this regard. So pretty interesting dynamic there with his character, which I actually love. Don't get very many neutral characters that are kind of like could speak on like, oh, do I stay on their side or do I go to their side? So I kind of like that neutrality that he's got going on here. As Yukio and Rios we discuss what's going on with the enemy and how they're not even encoding their messages, and how how even that wouldn't give them a chance to fight back anyway. Senku brings up the fact that they wouldn't be so sure about that, because they can fight back with some remote work of their own, as he asked them to get in contact with the people at the ceasefire zone, as by the time they've reached ground zero, they're going to actually find out what the Medusa is actually capable of, like how it actually works, and they're going to take it apart and analyze it. Which again, did not expect this 100%. This was a path that I thought was probably going to happen a little bit later on, but I'm glad that they're actually bringing this up now and actually discussing this, and it is into some very interesting points in the chapter. But anyway, continuing on, we get a flashback from when Stanley actually shot the Medusa and went down into the lake. Now, originally I thought that was going to be it for the Medusa, but nope. Boichi and Inagaki managed to surprise me, and for a complete curveball, we see Homura actually retrieve the Medusa, as Nikki's was supposed to revive 1 million people in Corn City, which means eventually dealing with sick and injured folks. But if we could figure out what makes the Medusa tick, then whenever anyone needs a doctor, we'll fix them up with Dr. Stone instead, which pretty much makes a lot of sense here, because they've lost a lot of modern day scientific and medical advances, and without them, like as Nikki said, if they were going to thrive 1 million people, they would eventually come across people who were sick, who did have life-threatening illnesses. But if they can actually figure out how Dr. Stone ticks, that problem shouldn't be an issue until they can actually get modern science working up again and not having to rely on this 24/7. Nikki carries on and says, "Good enough, right? You didn't give us a reason, Senku. So I guess that means I've just got to make a reasonable argument," which Brody agrees with. But of course, this being Dr. Stone, a bit of foreshadowing here, which is something that I did not pick up the first time. So going through this again and actually discussing and analysing it has allowed me to actually pick up on this one, which is him going, "Fair enough, and I've got no cause to turn her down. Still, this feels kind of sudden. The timing's fishy. Unless I'm just overanalyzing things." No, you're not, Brody. As we've discovered with this series, there are things that, even if they're very little, they're going to come back into play later on, as demonstrated with Party Jams bringing up that comment about people who compliment others are obviously scheming something. So yeah, let's keep that comment from Brody in the back of our minds for now. But continuing on, Reesby mentions that they've forgotten that the people that are actually back in quarantine don't even know that they're actually heading to the source of the petrification beam, as Senku brings up, obviously reiterates what we actually know, that when they actually get there, the original Medusa that sapped the whole world will be theirs, before Kuroko and Gen bring up interesting points. Wishful thinking, if I do say so myself. Come on, Gen. This is Senku we're talking about here. You should know that. Once he has his mind set to something, he's going to get it done. And Kuroko brings up the fact that, but against fighter planes and machine guns, we've got no clear way to beat Stanley. No way except the Medusa, that is. Which I don't know. You could actually find a way to actually imprison him and get him to be like, okay, we've got the Medusa working. So if you try anything, Stanley, you are going to get petrified. So. Yeah, that's kind of still using the Medusa, but there's still other ways you can fight even without the Medusa. As Senku brings up various possibilities about what the Medusa is and how it actually functions, he mentions that they've got, through remote work, they've got to pry it open and do an autopsy of the machinery inside, which again, this is something Tekken actually wanted to happen. He actually wanted Senku to actually sit down and study it with the mechanics and mechanisms, all of that. But as we'll see in this chapter, if he had actually done that, it probably would have been confusing for him, as you'll see why when we reach it. We cut back to the Medusa itself being sat on a table as Nikki and Dr. Brody are overseeing it, as he goes, "Sure, no problem, we're going to look after the device, not you. Any fiddling with it will be strictly monitored, and those are the rules." Which, again, I love the fact that Brody is being completely neutral here. He's like, yeah, even though I've got no reason to doubt you guys, I'm still not gonna trust you just yet. So any fiddling around with this machinery will be under our strict supervision, and nothing else. As they all clamber around the table, and Yo and Yusuriya get to actually looking over the Medusa, Yo says, What's that thing even made of to come apart into pieces? And Yusuriya says, well, some cracks formed when Stanley shot, which I actually like that line, because that line actually specifically clarifies that this thing is not magic at all. Not in any way. We knew that back in Treasure Island when Kuroko got petrified and she said, it is science, it's not magic, so we can actually analyse it. But I'm glad that at least gives clarification. Yeah, it's not magic, it's not some alien source. Boichi and Inagaki have actually said there's not going to be aliens coming into this, so it's all going to be grounded in reality. So yeah, this thing is man-made. So whatever the Y-Man actually is, whether it's someone who's artificially modified their body in some way, which is something that's actually being theorized, that we can actually get bionic bodies at some point in the future, so that some of us could live forever. That's a possibility that's been tinkered with the idea of for years and years and years, and whether or not the Y-Man's done that or not, that remains to be a mystery. But if it is, that wouldn't surprise me that the Y-Man actually tinkered with his body so that yeah, so that he could actually live forever and keep ruling the world with his robotic body on the moon or something like that. So yeah, he might be part human, part robot for all we know at this point. But I'm glad that they've actually brought that up, that the Medusa is man-made, which just leaves lots of further questions. But of course, you've got Magma here, who really, like Kenpachi, has three forms. Shoot first, or attack first, ask questions later. Attack first, ask questions later, or attack first, ask questions later, or D, go for all the above. So he starts to go all for the above, and he goes to attack the Medusa. But of course, Magma being Magma, basically bounces off it, and he's left with a broken axe, which, according to the wiki, was possibly a reference to when Gimli in Lord of the Rings tried to destroy the One Ring with his axe, and it didn't work. And this is something that Songetsu Black actually brought up to me when we were actually talking over this chapter. You see that there, David? You see that there? Magma getting choked by Nikki's thighs. Yeah, you like that, don't you? Okay, I have to make that reference, because if there's one thing I've learned from David from Control Chaos, he loves the thighs. But anyway, continuing on, Nikki says, even if we can take it apart, it's not like we have no clue what's going on. It's a job for a technician used to working on delicate machineries, which, again, I love that they've actually brought that out, because it gives credence to why Senku never even bothered to mess with this device in the first place, because I'm sure even he knew with his scientific brain, it's like, yeah, this is something far beyond my capabilities, and I best leave it up to someone who's actually a lot more delicate in dealing with machinery like this. As they continue to discuss who's the best person to actually figure out how this machine actually works, Mayamiya brings up the fact that there are high-grade watchmakers and famous jewelry crafters in the US, but she wouldn't know their location. And I just love Yusuri's reaction to how she's like at the table, just like getting her brain all worked out before she's like, God. Just seeing these characters again and seeing them interact and dealing with something that's actually relevant to the story and actually making it work is just so hilarious. And God, I've missed these characters for the past few chapters. But anyway, Ryusui goes on to say, classic watchmakers. The one I know might be a bit of a trek, but Rodex, basically Rodex HQ was near the airport. Everyone knows that. Ha! There you go. Watches for the win. All those people with your phones out there, I know I'm doing this off my phone here, but all those people with your phones out there who are like, who wears a watch nowadays? And then they're like, excuse me, have you got the time? Like, they can't be bothered to whip out their phone, and they're just asking me, the guy who has the watch on my hand. And this will come into play very relevant soon. But anyway, continuing on, I just want to talk about these panels here. But before we go on, just want to get through the dialogue first. As they continue discussing when it comes to watches, who wouldn't Ryusui's like, everyone knows that the Rodex HQ was near the airport, which is basically where they were. And Carlos and Max are like, everyone, nope. As we get a lot of detail here, we get, oh, that's just cute. That's just adorable. Where you have Kohaku and Suika in little motorcycle sleep bags, and we have Tsukasa and Hyoga sleeping off their wounds, and Yukio's like, I doubt anyone else knows as much about timepieces as you, Ryusui. But also, a brilliant thing that we have to bring up here is the fact that there's a full moon out here now. Caleb Cook, the translator for Dr. Stone on Fifth Media, actually brought up that we had one when they were travelling to, and we actually did see as well, one travelling to America. Then we had one on the night when Stanley was attacking, and now we've got one here. So he reckons that that this whole chapter is taking place in mid-December, which would fit right, and it would be perfect for basically this month, considering this chapter has pretty much come out in December itself, and the chapters and the few chapters that are going to be leading up into the Christmas break. But anyway, Ryusui continues on and says, could be tough getting directions with the world as it is. As Chelsea's like, oh, I've got you covered, give me a rough idea and I can whip up a topographic map and she whips up a map of California and slap bang puts a star in the center, which is where San Francisco was, which gets everyone like Gem Shot like, oh my god, she actually did that quickly. And Taichi's like, all right, we've got to beam that map to Yusufia and the guys in Corn City. And Suika's like, beam, it's over. I really wanted her to say, beam me up, and Yuki and Chelsea to go, are you making a, before she gets cut off by Senku, obviously you know which sci-fi series I'm referring to. But anyway, Senku decides like, yeah, I know we need to beam it over to the people at Corn City, so we're gonna do some remote fax work, as they're like getting really shocked by this like fax work in the stone world, and Senku's like, what? And Senku's like, a way to transmit pictures of, no. People are like, what's a way to transmit pictures over the phone? How? And Senku's like, fax machine ready, and they're like that quickly. Little squares, graphs, don't tell me. So it's obviously going to be all in Morse code, which is the only way they can actually communicate at this moment in time. As Chelsea and Senku are going through the various mathematics of this fax and getting Gen to actually beep it in the Morse code to the people at Corn City. We have Yukio and Luna going every square starting from the upper left indicate as either white or black via Morse code, and Luna's like faxing by hand, but and Gen's like, but why me? Why does the hellish Elabati Labour always follow me? Gen, you're just typing a button like that. It's not like you're trying to make 800 like batteries for a cell phone. You're just doing that. Seriously, grow a pair already. Coming back over to Corn City, we have Kimito, the manga artist, going, Osamu Tezuka once did something similar to draw some manga remotely while abroad, which I like that they actually brought up Osamu Tezuka, because him being like one of the pioneers of manga, that is highly likely that is something that he would do, and it's nice to actually give respect and credit where it's due. And seriously, if he can do it, there's no doubt in my mind that Senku could do it. And they're like, and Miami, and I just love Miami and Yusubia's reactions here, as Miami's like, I guess there's nothing to stop this from working, but wow, as Yusubia's just like scribbling everything down until the point where she actually gets the map drawn up of California, and look how exhausted, look at that face of how exhausted it is. But anyway, continuing on, Yusufia and a few others actually find the CEO of Rodex, as she brings up, yes, my star employee would be the one who would be the best to handle this job. And I just love her mark on her face, how she's got like the fingers of a clock on her forehead as her scar. And now obviously getting onto that employee, he's revived, and of course he's naked, so he's like, where's my clothes? And everyone's like, yes, that is the perfect reaction that you would be having here. That's the first question you would have after waking up after 3,000 years and you're butt naked after, when you've probably just been working your ass off. And Yo's like, because the guys we usually revive are on a whole nother mental level, but this guy, yeah, pretty much reacting in the way you would expect. But eventually they do get him back to Corn City, as they make some clothes for him, which I really love his outfit here. But one thing I want to talk about is his antlers on his head. Those ones right there, because when the CEO was bringing it up, he didn't have them, so that's probably what's meant to represent his scars. But I love the fact that he has lots of references to clocks on his outfit, like he has a 6 on it, he has a 6 on his apron, he has a 9 and a 3 on his right and left side, and obviously his antlers make the shape of 12, and he has like a little clock tie. So very appropriate outfit for him. And Brody's like, didn't Nikki explain the job? Weren't you listening, Greenhorn? And he's like, Greenhorn, is that any way to speak to someone doing you a favour? I have a name, it's Joel, or is that too hard for you to remember? And I'm gonna get into his personality in a minute, but obviously Brody is like, okay, sorry. So can you? And he's like, can you help us, Joel? And then Yusuri is like, here's the device. But of course, he gets absolutely blustered by Yusuri. Like, a girl is speaking to me. I don't know how to speak to this girl. And they bring up the fact that he spent his whole life working, so he never learned how to act around women. So he's pretty much in a similar position to Senku, except well, Senku was one who was like, yeah, I'm not really interested in like building like romantic relationships with women, whereas he's like more like, I've not really spoken to many women in my life, so I don't know how to do this. Now, obviously, there's going to be a very few exceptions to that rule. Like he probably had some siblings or some aunties or cousins who were female. So they go on to say that used to be a surprise that he actually crafted a watch the day he was revived, which again, watches for the win, always in handy, especially in the stone world, as he brings up. Right after we got here, Yo brings up right after we got here all by yourself, and he's like, Joel's like, I took the liberty of borrowing the tools here. Yes, for a man who minds his time, our watch is proof of impeccable taste. This one may be woefully impressive, a word I can't pronounce, but it's better to count on one's fingers, which is actually true. I agree with Joel here. And they're like, clues about women, but a total jerk to men. Now, obviously, I don't think that actually really applies to him all that much, because, like I said, yeah, outside of a very few selected people, he's probably always going to be like that. But there's always going to be those people that he's actually like, I'll make an exception that. Like with me, like there's some series there's like some genres that I'm not really that much of a fan of and tend to keep away with. But there are a few exceptions that I'll actually make for. Like sports are not really my thing, but there are series like Cross Games, which is a baseball manga and baseball anime, which I still haven't finished yet, and I still need to finish that. But yeah, I'm not really interested in sports manga or sports anime, but there are series like that where I'll make an exception for that rule, in the same way I think Joel will make an exception for some women, whether it's family or very close friends, like the CEO. CEO seems to be a woman character. So obviously he probably knows how to interact with her, because they've worked together for so long, and like he was her protege. So it makes sense for him to her to be like, okay, you're very few selection, but I'm going to treat you how I would want to be treated as well. But anyway, I love the fact that he has a similar personality to Senku, but they've kind of taken it in a different direction. As he agrees to study the device, he brings up the fact that it's not from any science known to the 21st century, and Brody's like, nope. And but before he's like, allow me to focus. You may observe, you so choose, but or a single word, and you'll die by my hands. And they're like, okay, you're crazy, but if you're gonna help us, we'll obey you. As he slowly takes out a little bit of chunk of the Medusa, which is obviously the battery. We cut over to Kimru saying, Matsukatsu did tell us the Medusas on the island were all destroyed, and Mike was like, exactly. No reason I couldn't just smash the whole the thing with one of them tools. And Miami's like, this is something's not the same as smashing. Come on, and yeah, we see it right here. There are cracks on the Medusa as Joel is working on it. So again, I love the fact that it's actually been pretty much proven that yes, this thing is man-made, just not from their time period in the 21st century. As Joel continues to study the machine, he's like, most of the compartments are remarkably complex, as if made with a 3D printer, and the circuitry is glass or perhaps some kind of material. And he can't begin to comprehend how it functions yet. For him, it seems to be just like how a watch would function, which again makes him the perfect person to actually be analysing this machine. Before he notices that there's one bit that's actually blackened, and it's the sensor core that everything else is connected to. Before No, Senku's saying it's the center core that everything else is connected to, and he's questioning like if it's a diamond. Before Joel brings up a theory that if this is some type of degraded battery, then removing it and reinstalling it might just actually get it working again. And he tests this theory by reinstalling it and then plugging it back in, which I love that. That it basically comes down to the fact that it comes down to the old joke. Hello, IT. Have you tried turning it on and off again? Or have you tried unplugging it and plugging back in? Which the comedy series IT, which for all of you American folks, it's a British comedy series about a group of geeks who work in a computer company, and one of their more popular catchphrases is like, "Hello IT, have you tried turning it on and off again?" But usually that actually works. That's pretty much how it actually works. Like that's how if like the computers at the job where I work at that run the tills, they actually break down or stop working. We just turn them on and off again, and 99% of the time that actually works. And I love that we get a reference to them unplugging it and plugging it back in here. Which again, that guy who was saying that this part was going too quickly to solve it, that I was bringing up with Sean, that kind of doesn't make any sense, because normally with science that's usually pretty standard thing, but it's usually the thing that works the most effective. Like it happened in South Park as well, when the South Park people lost the internet, and all it bottled down to was just like this giant rotor that was in like the Pentagon or something, and Kyle was like, wait a minute, and all he had to do was just unplug the Ethernet cable and plug it back in. That's pretty much what's happening here, and I love it that it was that simple, as they go on to say. So it's like an electric laser that might pop back up to life for a second even after it's dead. Now that might be an issue as well, because yes, it might pop back to life for a second, because that's exactly the time that Joel actually gave for the Medusa, like 1 second, and it's like, oh, I'm going to pop back to life for 1 second just to prove this theory. As Max is like, does the device work the same way? And Sig's like, here, possibly. In any case, we'll finally get some work science on the mechanism itself. Get excited as Joel is petrified once again, and that's where the chapter ends. So whether or not he'll still have those horns at the beginning of the next chapter, if they decide to revive him again, which they'll probably will, because he's the most inclined to actually work on this device. Whether or not that was meant to actually be a scar, that remains to be seen. The antlers on his head, which gave him the nickname Greenhorn. And going back to that, he wasn't actually being that rude to them, because they actually insulted him by calling him Greenhorn first. So I can't really blame him. But yeah, that was the chapter. Really interesting chapter. Got some great layers. We got to see what the Corn City people are up to, and we actually got to start figuring out how this Medusa, this petrification weapon, actually works. Now, whether or not we'll continue on with finding out more about the Medusa in the next chapter, or whether we'll just continue straight on to South America, that remains to be seen. But I'm glad that we actually got this chapter, because it shows that the people in Corn City are still relevant to the series, and not just going to be sidelined until the end of the South America arc, and they're actually going to be working in tangent with the people that have gone to South America. So we've got two parallel stories going on at the same time here, and I can't wait to see what happens next with them. But anyway, guys, what did you think of this chapter? Let me know. Like, subscribe, comment, all that jazz. And this will be Lasher Luke signing off. Later, guys, because once I get this edit uploaded, I'm going to bed. So, like I said, later, guys.